I trust the divinity. I trust the order. Because if I don't, I suffer. It's like an argument. That shouldn't have happened. And if I say it shouldn't have happened, I sign up for suffering. If it's meant to wake me up to my purpose even deeper, great. Could it have happened differently? That would be my prayer, but it didn't. If I don't look for the gift, I'll only remember the pain. So I have to constantly remind myself, do I miss them? Absolutely. Do I cry sometimes? Absolutely. If I don't continue to seek purpose in it, then I suffer. I know that it's a choice, and I choose not to suffer, because if my outcome is to help end suffering, I've got to go first.
Whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Hello and welcome to Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and in today's episode, we'll explore the power of personal healing, trauma transformation, and how conviction and compassion can lead to lifelong purpose. Our guest today is Jessie Torres, a globally recognized peak performance coach, life strategist, and founder of Fierce Grace. Over the past 19 years, Jessie has coached thousands of high-performing individuals from all walks of life and corners of the world, helping them unlock deep fulfillment and reach new levels of emotional, mental, and spiritual mastery. Ranked in the top 1 to 3 of every measurable category while working with the world's top coaching company, Jessie is known for blending mindset, emotional intelligence, energy, and strategy into a deeply client-driven, life-altering experience. Jessie is fueled by an unwavering love for humanity and a mission to end suffering. She specializes in helping people move from pain and trauma into purpose and passion, what she calls fierce grace. Today, we're going beyond the surface to explore Jessie's journey, the 3 pillars of trauma, and the wisdom she's uncovered from a lifetime of leaning in with grit, grace, and a commitment to love anyway. I'm honored to welcome Jessie Torres to today's episode. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godmothers, turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Jessie, we always start with the same question for our guests. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
Megan, I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
I'm delighted to have you here. The fates have aligned and brought us together.
Very much, and it's wonderful. I would say that a little bit of what you said in my bio, that we can always find light in the darkest moments, and we can transmute our pain into something that's powerful if we choose to.
So that is quite a sentence. And as we hold that sentence, I guess I'm really drawn to understand how it is that you know that.
Having gone through my own experiences of pain and trauma, and I think what's important to mention is trauma is, it's a word that people associate to a very big thing, whether it's blunt trauma or whether it's a rape or something really dramatic, which of course it is. But I believe trauma is whatever the child made meaning of in the moment of the experience. We all have different moments in our unconscious that we anchored a specific meaning based on what happened to us. And in my journey, I've had, abuse. I've had, murders in my family. My brothers were murdered. And there's been a lot of moments where I could have chosen the dark side. I had every justification. And in the process of going through all of that, something in me still sought for the light and to find love, even when it wasn't justified. And part of why I feel loving anyway is one of the greatest things that I've learned along my path.
They are some big experiences that you've had.
Mm-hmm.
The experiences in your childhood, the murder of your brothers, not one, but 2, and not at the same time, right?
Right.
Over a period of
30
time.
years apart. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about how that shaped you and what it's like to live with that kind of loss.
Well, initially, my older brother was 29. I was 28. I was married, already had my kids. And it was one of those things that you just imagine happened on the movies, right? It doesn't happen to you. It was very shocking, and it was very, it didn't make any sense. We couldn't figure out what had happened. And it turns out it was a love triangle that my brother knew nothing about. So it's one of those things where he was just trying to be a good Samaritan and give a guy a lift because his car was broken down, supposedly. And he ended up taking him a couple blocks up the street and shooting him. And that was because he was priorly engaged to a girl that my brother just started dating. That's how crazy and simple it was to take someone's life. And so in that moment, for me, I turned my back on everything. I consider myself more spiritual than I do religious. However, I was raised Catholic. And at the time, I was a Christian. And in that moment, I turned my back on everything. I turned my back on God. I thought, how could this be happening? God, I don't even know if you exist. What if there's nothing after this? I went on a spin. And then I thought, if you do exist, I hate you for taking my brother, and I was just in that aching grief. And it was actually my brother, a moment he showed up in a moment of massive crying. And at the time, my ex-husband was holding me. And he showed up. I just saw him in white and white all around him and what looked like people, but it's kind of fuzzy. And he just did with his hand this gesture. And he said, Jess, everything is as it's supposed to be. And at the time, I didn't know what it meant, but in that moment, it brought me peace. I felt that he was okay and that I just needed to come to full acceptance. And I think from that moment, it's just sent me on a trajectory of seeking, answers within me that could justify something like that. And fast forward 30 years later, 2 years ago, my little brother was murdered. And now it was a whole different experience. I was like, okay, no, I already checked that box. I already lost a brother. Like that's one lifetime is enough, And we had plans to speak on stage. We had plans to make a difference, and then that happened. And part of it was when my older brother was murdered, my little brother was 15 and he idolized him. And ever since the loss of my older brother, my little brother, he was seeking for that older brother. And unfortunately, he sought it in gangs or, in trouble. And he was in and out of trouble throughout his life. But at this state, he was the best he'd ever been. He was raising his 2 daughters. He was taking them to school. He had opened up a business called Resilience LLC, and we were going to do this together. And it was a man that owed him money and murdered him, shot him in the back. So it's that devastating. So for me, now I felt rage like I've never felt before. I was like, okay, now I usually go to sadness. That's kind of my home when I am under stress. This time I was really angry. And having done the work that I've done, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, and now I'm in prayer and I'm like, okay, God, if both my brothers are meant to be taken, what do you want with me? And if I'm meant to be here, how could I turn this pain into power? And that was when I got the message, you got to eat your own medicine. You got to find light right now, even though everything is dark. I mean, I'm getting messages from gang members, baby mamas. I mean, I'm getting all kinds of, I'm so confused and I don't know what to believe and I'm learning all these things and it was really traumatic. But in that moment where that message dropped into my mind, I started to look for the light in my deepest depth of sorrow. And what I found was that the depth of my pain was equivalent to the depth of my love. And I can lean into that love. And I can see that, my family showed up in beautiful ways that I'd never seen before. 3 of his oldest daughters who hadn't met before, they were from different mothers, acted like they were known each other forever. People posting on my brother's Instagram about he changed their lives. And so I could find the light, I could find the beauty. And it was this dichotomy of gut-wrenching pain while such beautiful things were opening. And I think that it taught me that no matter how dark, there's always light if we seek it.
It is just so very powerful to hear that sentence within the context from which you come. And that is only a thread, 2 threads of some of the experiences that you've had to deeply understand that the depth of your pain matches the amount of love, the depth of your grief matches the love. That feels life-changing. And The other part that really struck me was around the light is always there too, and just depends on your focus. It is a difficult thing to have loss at that level. I wonder how you managed to shift your gaze away from the all consuming pain and find the light, because that is a real heavy muscle. That is a heavy thing to lift when you're on fire with pain.
Very, very true. And what I would say to that is to give my pain a voice. Like, I don't want to bypass the human experience of grief. So I give myself permission to feel those feelings. It's not an immediate, okay, get over it, right? It's more of like, it really hurts. And I think all the work that I've done up to this point, and actually what I do with Fierce Grace is, in those moments where I understand that pain and I feel that human experience of pain, I also trust the divine order of it all. And that if I see divinity and I feel and I believe that we don't die, we just change forms, that my brother is okay. My brother's in the hands of God, or, whatever your belief is, he's good. And so if that was part of this divine contract, his divine contract with God, I know how it affected me, but I know his death affected many. And so how could I find the gift in that? How could I find the beauty? And I still have plans to, you know, I'm still sorting it, right? I'm still in constant ask, and that might look like opening up a nonprofit to help, people that have been arrested to come out and actually rehabilitate and actually, be able to have a chance at life, and how to empower them. And that might be the way. There's a lot of different vehicles that I can take, but I'm still open to it. I see, so very, very big things happen from tragedy. I think of people like John Walsh that created America's Most Wanted at the death of his son, that catalyzed him to save the lives of many. So I do believe that there's purpose for me to be here and to have experienced such depth of loss. And so my outcome is to transmute that pain. So you ask, how do I do it? I trust the divine order. I trust the hand of our Creator. I trust that this life experience is for us to find love, to find forgiveness, to find compassion, to come back to a place of loving humanity, even when it doesn't make sense, or even when we're justified in our anger and in our hurt. Because if we don't, we suffer. And as you read in my bio, my outcome is to end that suffering and ultimately understand that suffering is a choice.
I have many things I want to say to you. The thing that is really sparkling at me is what it might be like to be a parent of 3 children and to lose 2 of them to murder. I wonder if I know that hasn't happened to you, that happened to your parents. I wonder if you could speak a little about what it's like.
Well, for me personally, my mother, God bless her, she's been through a lot. And right now, based on what's happened 2 years ago, we have had to come together, and she's now living with me. And so I'm experiencing the depth of her grief front and center, right? And so the tough part, she's 85. She was 58 when my older brother was killed, and now she's 85. And so it's a whirlwind of pain that she is working to shake off, but she sees through the lenses of, people are cruel, people take advantage, the unjust. And I can't join her in that vision. I still hold strong that people are beautiful first, and things happen, like our traumas or different things that happen that turn us into, creating this. And so for her, it's very difficult. And it had us bump heads initially because I won't join her in the way she sees the world. But luckily I articulate that to her and say, Mom, I want you to know I'm not being defensive or I'm not fighting you. I just can't see the world the way you do. And I get it. I understand why you do, but it only causes you pain. And both are available. You're with me now. You've always wanted to be near me. I left when I was 18, and have not been back home, for little moments here and there, but this is a moment where her and I have a chance. But if she doesn't look for that, then she'll only remember the loss. And so I'm working with her to get that. But it's very hard. She says it's very hard. So she still focuses on the anger for my father. She focuses on the loss and why. And even though she believes in her faith, it's hard for her to reconcile. So I share with her my beliefs, and she listens, and she tries to turn it, but it's been very difficult for her. But I think we're at that tipping point where she's open to appreciating being near her grandkids, right? Having, her grandkids there, and they're very much involved and bring her to things, and having me. So I keep trying to tell her, look at the beauty you do have, and understand that their divine contract with God was theirs, and that she couldn't have done anything different. Because I think that's what she does. She spins, and what could I have done? Or how could I have changed things? Or how could I have raised him different? Or how could I have left your father sooner? Like all those things are what she rolls in her mind. And I'm like, Mom, this was their moment. And thank goodness my little brother said to her, God's got his time for me, Mom. He's got the perfect time for me. And I know that. So she leans on that and trusts. And that's where the divine order of it all comes together, and I can speak that to her.
I'm gathering my heart energy because I'm really feeling this very deeply. I just think it is one of the most courageous things to lose a child as a parent, and to be able to find a way forward that has access to the light, to neutral or positive emotions when you've lost a child. I cannot fathom losing two, even when there is a beautiful third and all of the descendants from all of the children. I can hold all of that and really deeply be appreciative in my mind's eye. And the loss of two, I have no words for it. What is it like to witness that as a child?
It's almost like, again, I trust the divinity. I trust the order. Because if I don't, I suffer. It's like an argument. That shouldn't have happened, but it did. And if I say it shouldn't have happened, I sign up for suffering. So I don't like it. If it's meant to wake me up to my purpose even deeper, great. Could it have happened differently? That would be my prayer, but it didn't. And so if I don't look for the gift, I'll only remember the pain. So I have to constantly remind myself, do I miss them? Absolutely. Do I cry sometimes? Absolutely. But if I don't continue to seek purpose in it, then I suffer. So I know that it's a choice, and I choose not to suffer, because if my outcome is to help end suffering, I've got to go first. So I put that in all of what I do with Fierce Grace to help people understand, even if you didn't lose or have this big a loss, there's micro traumas that we go through. There's meanings that we made of our experiences when the kid took our lunchbox in kindergarten, and now we're like, oh, why were they mean to me? We start to anchor these things, and we don't realize that now we're 35 and we hold on too tight, and we don't realize it was that moment that the kid took our lunchbox. You know what I mean? It's just part of the human experience. So how can we unravel the deepest depths of our pain and alchemize it into power and purpose and a way to fall in love with ourselves? Because I think part of the things that we go through life is we judge ourselves so harshly. Even in my abuse with my father, I judged myself for not fighting hard enough, for not kicking and screaming and spitting or I don't know, all these things. I was a little girl. I didn't know. But now I'm a grown-up and I know better. So let me bring the judgment hammer and beat myself up for not doing more. And that's kind of what we do. And so we put limitation on our potential, on what we could accomplish, because we're hard on ourselves based on the meanings we've given our experience. So when we start to unravel it all and we're able to witness, instead of judging my little girl, I get to fall in love with her. I get to love her because I get to see her courage. I get to see that when she's building traps to warn her when her father was coming in the room, that she was courageous and creative and resourceful, because those are true. Yes, it sucks that that had to happen for a little girl. That's true. But I also see this truth, and I choose to lean on that because that makes me fall in love with her. That makes me notice her greatness, and that if she had to go through that for me to be who I am today, then oh my gosh, the reverence I have. And when I can love myself that way, I see humanity through a whole different set of lenses. I love you. There's no one that can share with me the depth of their pain where I will be shocked. The deeper the pain, the bigger the light. That's all I see. It's like, okay, take my hand, let's do this, and let's alchemize this into power because your light is brilliant. I don't believe God wastes the pain. I believe we do if we choose to.
There's a phrase I've heard you say, and a friend of ours that we share, that's a mutual friend, about suffering being optional. And I am going to ask you to talk about it, and then I've got a question for you on it.
Okay.
Okay, so tell us what suffering is optional means.
Perfect. So what that means is that, yes, suffering is a choice. Like I was saying earlier, both options are available. I can see myself and condemn myself for not doing more, for not being stronger. That is available to me. What's also available is for me to see the courage that it took to persevere, the creativeness, the resourcefulness, the bravery. That's also true. So in this moment, I'm at choice point. If I beat myself up and hate myself, I suffer. So I can choose that route, but why would I? When this one is available, we're just not taught. We're not taught to find the beauty. We're not taught to see the courage. You're like, oh, I was courageous. That's cool. But look at what happened. And we have a big global victim mentality. And we're taught to notice what's wrong, not what's right. And so in those moments where, you're justified in your suffering, you're justified in your pain, it's still a choice. Now, again, give your feelings time to feel, because we're human. We stub our toe, it still hurts. So don't bypass it, but put a clock on it. Give yourself time, and then start to look for the beauty, start to look for the gift, start to look for the power it gave you. At the loss of my first brother, I had different conversations with my sons. I told them to be careful. I told them to not get involved with women unless they're completely not with anybody else. I had different perspective based on what happened. Maybe that saved my boys' lives. I don't know. But I get to choose what I take from the experience. And I'm going to choose to find light in it so that I can be empowered by it while I feel my feelings. And I'm not going to choose the suffering. And that's what I'm working with my mom. She's still in the suffering state. I get it, and it's a choice.
Hey there, Meg Tuohey here with a quick and exciting announcement. As a psychologist, coach, and founder of the Wisdom Lab, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals break free from the vicious cycles holding them back and tap into their infinite inner wisdom. If you're tired of feeling unheard, unseen, and stuck in the same old struggles, the Wisdom Lab is the breakthrough you've been yearning for. This on-demand program guides you through a powerful process to shatter emotional barriers, overcome deep-rooted blocks, and experience the profound transformation you deserve. In just 4 hours, you'll gain the tools and insights to revolutionize your life from the inside out. Want to learn more? Click or tap the link in the show notes for all the details. Okay, now back to the episode. Okay, so I like to do a segment here called Yeah, But.
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you don't understand, Jessie. My experience is horrendous, and I am not choosing to not look for the good things.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot see the good things. My body is on fire. My brain is on fire. I cannot think. I cannot speak. I cannot talk. I'm in a great depression. I'm in a great helplessness cycle. It's all well and good for you to be able to have found the light. Good for you. You don't know what it's like to be me. It's not possible for me. It's not possible for me in the body with the loss that I've had. And I see that you have too, but you don't understand my loss. My loss is so painful, Jessie, that I can't even roll over in the night without every cell being on fire. So what about me? I just have to stay here because I can't choose, because my body's on fire, Jessie?
What I would say initially is, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for what happened. And I'm so sorry for what you experienced. And I'm so sorry that you had to experience that in this lifetime. And just be with. Part of grieving is everybody, they don't know what to say. And you read books and you do it, and it's like how to get out of grief. And I'm like, be with the grief. Be with it, and you'll find that it dissipates. It gets out of your body when you just be with it. I'm not saying bypass it, put all the grief aside and not feel those feelings. So allow the pain to dissipate from your body, and then start to breathe. And if you can just get one moment of gratitude about that you have health, or that somebody brought you breakfast, or whatever. If you can start with gratitude and find just one thing to be grateful for, you can start to open the window to light. It doesn't have to be specific to this, but when you start to make that practice and you look for what you're grateful for, it can start to turn into, now what can I find in order to understand that this did happen, and that I'm still here, and that my hunch is whatever the loss, the person would want you to be happy and not be in suffering.
Let's do one more yeah, but. I'm channeling our listeners as I do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Jessie, the person that did this to me doesn't actually care about me, doesn't actually want me to be happy. This is another segment, right?
Mm-hmm.
For many, that will be true.
Right.
So I'm not arguing here. I'm trying to pull your beautiful wisdom for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So what if they don't want that, Jessie? What if that person actually doesn't want good things for me, and I am in a body that is deeply understanding that and so traumatized, so on fire, so in pain that it's almost hard to breathe, let alone survive? What then?
Well, the other person not wanting you to be happy or not wanting you to find joy is that person's problem. Here's the thing, is oftentimes we want others to behave a certain way so that we have permission to let go, or we have permission to accept our divinity or our beauty. It's like, well, but they don't want it for me, so that means something about me. Just like, only if you believe it does. It's like, we can't give our power outside of ourselves. You've got to love you enough to know that if somebody doesn't want your joy, that's their problem, not yours. And don't be handcuffed by what somebody else expects of you or wants for you. And it's like, and a lot of times we turn you have to do this so I can be happy. You need to do it. We do that with our spouses. We do that, right? It's like, you need to be this way so I can be happy. Or even the thing, I need to own my home so I can be happy. I asked a client that, it's just like, so are you happy? Well, I'm not unhappy, but no, not really. And I'm like, well, what does it take for you to be happy? Well, I have to own my own home. And I'm like, so all of that, I go, do you know that you can be happy while buying your home? But again, they believe that their emotional state is outside of them based on something that has to happen versus inside of them and choosing happiness right now.
Yeah, we know whenever we're trying to maneuver something outside of us to line up a certain way, to give ourselves relief, that it's never lasting because it keeps shifting.
That's right.
The only way is to build within you, and then it belongs to you.
That's right. Well, and what happens is when the disappointment happens, they perpetuate their belief that they're not entitled to happiness, right? It's like, okay, you didn't do the thing, see? And they perpetuate their belief, and it keeps like spinning like a crazy eight, There it is again, another proof that happiness isn't meant to be mine. Because look at what happened here. And we start to believe that our happiness is in the control of others, which will just sign us up for suffering because people behave the way they behave. We have no control. That's why ultimately with Fierce Grace, we go into how do you find that happiness within? How do you come back to you? Because once you do, you release the handcuffs of your joy or your happiness being on the helm of somebody else's behavior. And what's great about it is that when somebody acts unkind, somebody shows up and is cruel, you're able to see that there is a product of their pain, their wound, not your truth. And now you can go, oof, in order for someone to be that unkind, you got to live with that. that's hard. I send you love and then you move away. I'm not saying to stand on the bullseye of somebody else's pain, but you start to witness it that way versus how dare you be cruel. It's just like, oh, wow, you're in a deep pain that I know nothing about and it has nothing to do with me. I'm going to cut ties now and I'm going to move on and I'm going to send you love. And that's a whole different way to look at humanity versus, people are bad.
There's something in there, Jessie, about recognizing the separateness between us as well as the collectiveness that binds us. And that separateness is you're having your experience and I'm having mine. And if we're in a friendship or if we're married, then those really have to do a close dance together. And also, ultimately, we only really ever travel with just ourselves from birth to death. It's really us the whole way. And we get to have people come through our lives, across our lives. And if we're lucky, sometimes people stay for a lifetime. Other times it's a season or a reason. Yeah. And the gift, I think, in what you're saying is recognizing that everybody is in their own bubble of the human experience and all the bubbles belong together as well.
They do. And that's such a beautiful way to put it. And it's one of those moments where like something tragic like 9/11 happens or whatever, where all of a sudden, I'm running into the burning building because someone's laying there and it might be their last breath. Right? It's like I'm going to run to them and all of a sudden they're not black, they're not white, they're not fat, they're not, you know what I mean? They're just another human spirit, a soul that maybe I hold their hand and it's the last thing they see. And it brings us back to humanity. It brings us back to no separation. Like you're saying, like we're all part of the whole. That's a human being. That's not a label. Right. And now all of a sudden all that goes away. So my outcome is why don't we do that now? Why do we have to wait for tragic moments to throw all that stuff out the window and stop emoting like a loose fire hose and come back to regulation and recognize that we're all in this game together. And if we choose love first, then we're going to find a common ground. But if we don't and we're wanting to get mine or we drive from ego or what I can get from you, then that's where that separation begins. And now we're living a guarded life. And now if you don't agree with me, you're uneducated and mentally ill. This is the stuff that people spew. And it's just like, okay, where's the humanity in that?
The other thing that can happen is if you and I were married, for example, no, even friends, if you and I are in some form of a relationship and I don't recognize that I am my own person and you are your own person and that I am responsible for myself and you are responsible for yourself. And yes, there's some coexistence, shared experiences that we need to keep in good hygiene. Don't get me wrong. I'm not at all not saying that. If I am relentlessly asking you to bend around me, and you are asking me to bend around you, we spend our whole times contorting. And some of that is reasonable. So I'm not talking about the reasonable parts of that. I'm talking about the unreasonable parts and what happens when the other person can't meet or fulfill the voids or vacancies or pain points in each other. What happens is we start to get really cross. We blame, we shame, we deny that it's our fault, it's yours. We justify, I did it this way because of you. We minimize, we use contempt, we stonewall, we avoid. We use all of those things because that person hasn't been able to plug our gaps. And when we can't have our gaps plugged, we get really hurt and we want it to stop. And the quickest way we can do that is to put that blame on somebody else. And sometimes that's really reasonable. Sometimes it does belong to an action of another. Don't hear that I'm going after that. I'm not. I'm going into the space where if I took responsibility for my needs and voids and holes and hurts and harms, and I did the work to heal them, I wouldn't ask you to contort in unnatural to you shapes so that I felt better. That feels like wisdom. I wonder, might you have anything to say or add to that?
Well, absolutely. I think that what you're saying is, and what ultimately happens when we go through our pain and we alchemize it into power and we own our sovereignty. We come back to, I'm going to emotionally regulate to be the best version of me, and I'm going to fill my own cup so that I can love from the overflow. Now I don't need you to fill my void. I don't have a void. I filled it with me. I filled it with my love. Now I know I'm enough. I know that I'm beautiful. I know that I'm divine perfection. That I've owned my divinity. Now, I get to find someone to bring into my world to love from the overflow of my own love. Now there's no attachment.
Do we hear that? The overflow of my own love? That feels like it could be a billboard. Please continue.
And what you said, which is so important, when we are trying to fill each other's void, or, you have to behave this way, then here's what happens when the breakup happens. Either we go enraged because now our void is left empty, or if we have a loss, then we're devastated because it's like, you took a part of me. You took a part of me, and I don't know how to live without that.
Oh, the ache of that one.
Yeah. And that's why, like you're saying, I can't change. My body's burning. I can't. And it's because there's this attachment that we didn't have our own cup full, and we expected that other person. So now when it's taken from us, it's like, I can't live. That's why it's so monumentally important that we fill our own cup and that we take our pain and we turn it into power, because if we don't, then we're constantly going to live with that void in our heart. We're going to constantly live with that void, expecting experiences or people to change it. A lot of times, a lot of the people I work with are high achievers, right? They make all this money and they're empty. They're empty inside. I coached a billionaire. Now, he says, can you just teach me how to be? Because I've been doing my whole life. And he was on his 5th marriage. His children wouldn't talk to him, and he was tired of hiring a massage therapist for physical touch. So the man can own an island, and his soul was empty. And he thought it was on making the next million or getting the next accomplishment. And he was losing his family in the interim, and he thought that's where the answer lies. And we don't realize we're chasing worthiness on money, or on success, or on how many houses I could own, or how many cars I can drive. And it's that emptiness. It's a cat chasing its tail. It'll never be enough. And you'll lose family along the way. And that's the sad part. So that's why I'm committed to helping people recognize the divinity within.
I would like to do another yeah, but for our audience, particularly around someone took something from me. So I'm just stepping into character. I'm channeling, I'm feeling into the listeners who are really wanting to know this part. And they say, Jessie, yeah, but you don't understand. They really did take something from me. Jessie, yeah, but you don't understand. I never had that without that person. And now that person isn't in my life anymore, or is still judging me, and I can't get their attention, or I can't get their approval. I don't have that bit in me. I never could form that bit in my life. Now they've taken it, and I literally don't have it. So how do I have a cup full to overflowing? I barely even know I have a cup. Yeah, but Jessie, how do you live if someone's got all of your bits, all of your insides, and they're just knitting a scarf with it? Yeah, but Jessie, you don't understand. I don't even know how to name this feeling of loss that I have in my side, where somebody took something that belonged to me and now I'll never have it back.
Great question. So as somebody is in that suffering, there's a belief that they took something, right? What they took is themselves out of the picture. But did they really take what you learned? Did they really take what you got to experience? Maybe you experienced love like you didn't know before, but then there was this dark part. So now you get to take the gift that they gave you. They showed you how to love. They opened your heart. All of those things, those weren't taken from you. They're still within you. And what if they were meant to crack you open because there's somebody else who's going to appreciate it, who's going to come in and love it, and not only be there for you in a new way, but you get to fill that for yourself enough to be able to attract somebody that meets you there as well. So now it's yours forever. And not only is it yours forever, but you get someone that loves it and nurtures it and is there for you. So it's the illusion, right, that I don't have it anymore. No, you do, because you got to experience it. Let's just say it's love, right? And somebody opened your heart fully and you gave all you could give and you're like, no, this was the most love. I'd never experienced this before. Now they're gone. How will I ever open my heart again? Just like, oh my gosh, you got to experience that love. So take all of that, let go of the rest, and get ready, because somebody else is going to come that's going to match your higher level of love, but you got to give that within, and now that person's going to match you there, and both of you are going to be able to love from that overflow.
I, in my mind's eye, see the shape that's missing or perceived as missing or taken from somebody else. And I see this being rebuilt brick by brick. Only this time you knowingly built it, which means nobody can take it.
That's right. That's right. Maybe that person was meant to wake you up. Maybe that person was meant to open something in you that allowed for that to be there. Right. And so I think that every single person that comes into our experience was part of our divine path. Even my father, right? My father, what if his divine contract with God was to be the dark for me? My ex-husband, so that I can find the light, so I can seek the light, so I could teach it now. That was they signed up. They're like, God, I'll be the dark for her because she's going to wake up and she's going to heal the many. So I'll be that dark for her. And they signed up on this lifetime, even the loss of my brothers. I'll get taken at 29 because that impact is going to ripple into her heart and it's going to make her seek what she believes, right? I'll leave when my brother left when I was like, what am I now, 58, right? So in that, it's like, oh my God, at this point, yep, because you needed a reminder and you needed another shot because you're going to serve the many. And you need to know, just like you said, you don't understand, Jessie. It's like, oh, you're going to understand, Jessie. You're going to understand the depths of shame. You're going to understand the depths of loss. You're going to understand the depth of, verbal abuse and mental abuse. You're going to get it all. Because when you alchemize your pain, you're going to teach it to others and you're going to help the many. So are you up for that? I'm like, okay, God, sign me up. And then all of the people in my path signed up with me to be that for me. So now I get to love them. I get to say, thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, brothers. Thank you for signing up for me to be able to find purpose in all of it. So I have nothing but gratitude for my entire experience.
Do you know what I see? I see them all behind you, in service of you, when perhaps at other times of your life it felt like they were against you. From this vantage point, we're all on the same team, which is very much different from why don't you love me? Why did you do this to me? Why did you hurt me so much? Why weren't you there? Why did you leave? Why did you die? Why were you murdered? Why me? Why me? Why me? It turns into all of us are united. All of us are moving in the same direction on our own individual paths. Like we're all in our own little bubbles, but the bubbles belong together and the bubbles are moving in formation. That is a very different tonality to the feeling of being done to and being on the back foot and being harmed by. Even though you were harmed, you still also can have the vantage point of the group is here to support me. My ancestors are behind me. My people are with me, and we're moving together. You don't have a separation. And I think the separation hurts so much.
It does in our human experience.
In the human experience.
The spirit is pure and the spirit is still connected. The spirit, my energy still connects to my brother, and I can give thanks today to my father. I can give thanks to my ex-husband. I can give thanks to even when my little brother's life was taken in court. I won't get into the whole court case. However, he got let go. And it was in that moment where, unjust, this isn't justice, all the stuff wants to come up. And I'm like, this is what's going to happen. So what can I do? And in that moment, I looked at him and I said, look, my brother's not here. You are. Do something with your life. Do something with your life. Let this be the catalyst that wakes you up. You could have been in prison for the rest of your life. For whatever reason, this is turning out the way it is. So take this and do something with your life. Change it. Let it be the catalyst that helps you see and turn your life around, inspire others. What could I do in that moment except breathe life into him? So that's how I see it. To your point, they're behind me. They're with me. We're all a part of this, and I give thanks for all of it. And it deepens my conviction to help others see life this way under divine order. You know, I've had different moments where those voices come in, and I saw my ex-husband, for instance, with his head down in this shame, you know, for what he had done. And I felt so much compassion. I was just like, oh my gosh, I chose you. Like, I chose you to be that for me. Thank you. You know, and that's ultimately where I am today. And every single human being that comes through Fierce Grace and comes out the other side. And it's almost like the innocence comes back to their eyes, and it softens their cheekbones, and you see the light. And I'm just like, there's no greater gift than that moment when they find their own divinity and they fall in love with who they are in all aspects of their journey.
I feel like the last piece of this puzzle is that nothing is ever lost. So energy changes forms, but it's never gone. And so all of the loss that you have had, that I have had, that our listeners have had, of people we love or cherish or miss to this very day, we once had a connection with them, and that connection remains even when the form changes. So we have that experience of them inside of us. We have that experience of us being able to have a conversation with them and hear back what they would likely say. We can make space for the sense or the remembering of the hug. We can ask for signs to show up. We can do ways to connect in a different format because the connection remains, even though the form has changed.
Very much. In fact, in prayer at one point, it was a vision I had, and my brother was right next to me, and he was like an angel. And in this moment, like, I understood the divine order of it all, but in that moment, my human experience was just like, but why though? And it was a Christ energy that I could feel. And he said, your brother is with you more now than he was in physical form. And I could feel it. I could feel it in that moment, because at that point I was married. I'd moved away. We weren't like right next to each other, and he was living his life and I was living mine, you know, and now I feel him always. You know, I lean on him. I pray, I ask, I meditate, and I call in both my brother's energies. I'm like, you guys signed up to do this for me. Help me out. Like, be with me in this moment. And I do. You're right. I feel them more than ever.
It just feels so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your experience. I feel like we just all sat cozily in a safe space and shared what it's like to walk through immense pain in order to come out the other side. And for those listeners at home who haven't yet come out the other side, is it possible?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's possible. And if you need help, you know, reach out. Nobody goes it alone. Okay. We need each other, and you don't have to lone wolf it. There's somebody out there that wants to support you or believe in you or just hold space for you. So don't stay alone. Don't isolate. We're here for it. And if it's possible for me, I believe it's possible for you.
Yeah, but Jessie, mine is really bad. My experience, it's worse than yours.
I understand.
I'm worse than you. I'm the bad one. I'm the one that I can't possibly have any good come from me.
Yeah. Take my hand and let's walk you to forgiveness of yourself, so that you can forgive others and realize that you are still the divine perfection you were when you took your first breath.
This feels like the exact right moment to say to you, Jessie, we're at the end of our conversation. Are there any last words of wisdom or advice for our listeners that you'd like to make sure that they know?
Absolutely. Know that it is possible for you. If you are stuck and you feel like it isn't, I have nothing but love for you, and I understand. Know that it's a choice and that you can do it. If one human being has done it, so can you. You just need support. You need help, and I'm here for it. But there's others that want to serve you and support you. You can take your pain and turn it into power and purpose, I promise.
Jessie, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful.
It has. You and I had a series of events that had you come in here to do this. And there are quite unfathomable events. And yet here we are in the same city at the same time with the same space and the perfect vacancy. So thank you for feeling that. And thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely. All a divine choreography for sure.
Yes. I'd like to thank Jessie Torres for joining me today on Wisdom Stripes. In this conversation, we explored her powerful journey from trauma to transformation, the pillars of fierce grace, and the conviction it takes to keep choosing love, even in the face of loss. If you found today's episode meaningful, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a drop of wisdom. You can follow Jessie at I Am Fierce Grace on Instagram and visit www.iamfiercegrace.com to learn more about her work and upcoming offerings. And to stay connected with me, follow at Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. I hope you gained a little wisdom today. My name is Meg Tuohey, and this is Wisdom Stripes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on @MegTuoheyOfficial and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.